See two idiot NRIs from Canada.
We'll keep that one. Like the random. No, not that.
Thanks everyone. Like, subscribe. What do people say? Comment. Do I start?
So hi again. We're two idiot NRIs. And coming off our last video on the terrorist attack on Pahalgam, India, now we're going to talk about Operation Sindoor, which was India's tactical response to this. And I thought this was like brilliant. Every stage of it was well planned. There were obviously more stages to come had there not been a ceasefire. But India's entire response here was non-escalatory, but also so large that it's really trying to dissuade more terrorist attack like
deter,
this.
yeah, exactly.
So the initial attack on May 7th was targeted at LET terrorist camps in Pakistan. So they only targeted 9 terrorist camps. That's all they hit, and they would have left it there had Pakistan not responded. So these were precision strikes. We can see them on satellite. Again, so like if there were 2 buildings and one was a terrorist camp and the other was just a civilian building in theory, there were probably all terrorists around there really. But like there would be a hole in the roof of one, target exactly what they wanted, super precision strike, very minimal casualties. And this is in contrast to Pakistan's response to this, which was just mass drones and missiles everywhere they could get.
Right, yeah.
And all of that was thwarted by India's integrated air defense. So these 9 camps were associated with LET and Jaish-e-Mohammed.
So exactly. There was, it was 9 terror camps, and these were in the, I think the DGMO briefing, the tri-service briefing that India did after Operation Sindoor, they said that Pakistan, there's terror camps everywhere there, basically. There's so many UN designated terrorist groups and terrorists there. So
this is not India saying this is a terrorist camp. This is the world knows this is a terrorist camp.
So these are also well-known terror camps. And so they actually struck 9 of the terror camps, and they had been gathering intelligence to ensure that terrorists were actually there. Because after the Pahalgam attack, so Prime Minister Modi was actually in Saudi Arabia at the time. So was our External Affairs Minister Jaishankar and our MSA Doval. So they were all there. Apparently, they had a meeting there in Saudi Arabia, and that on the flight back, they had already decided that we're going to retaliate after this horrendous terrorist attack. As you said, the Resistant Front, which is an offshoot of Lashkar-e-Taiba, claimed responsibility, and of course Indian intelligence and armed forces had been gathered evidence and knew that this was linked to Pakistan. So it was Pakistan terrorists that infiltrated and committed this horrific terror attack. But anyways, so on the flight back to India, so PM Modi cut his visit short from Saudi Arabia. And on the way back, the planning had already started. And then I believe he had an event in Bihar, and then from Bihar, PM Modi announced that we are going to retaliate. We are going to hit your terror infrastructure in Pakistan, and that is what they did on, I guess, May 7th. So they took the time from April 22nd, which was when the terrorist attack happened, to May 7th to plan it out. And like you said, it was a beautifully orchestrated and planned attack. It was precise, as they said. It was calibrated. It was non-escalatory. And these, as you said, were 9 well-known, not just to India, but to the world, terror camps. And they were headquarters of, as you said, LET, JEM, Hizbul Mujahideen, and a whole bunch of other groups. So
And this attack actually took out the terrorist that killed an American Jewish journalist, Daniel Pearl. Like, the world should be thanking India for like what they took out here.
right.
Very, very little of that going on, but you know. So they struck using Scalp missiles on the Rafale fighter jets. So these are stealthy, long-range missiles, very precise. Again, India is a responsible democracy and spending more to be so precise in their targeting. Otherwise, like if it was just unguided drones and missiles like Pakistan responded with, then it would just be mass collateral, which there wasn't. There was barely any.
Right.
There were a few families killed in these terror camps, and you know, everyone thinks it's unfortunate when a child dies, but that meant the terrorists were keeping their children in these terrorist camps. So that responsibility lies firmly with them.
With the terrorists, actually, it was like the family of terrorists that were staying in the terror camps. So. You know, India said very clearly that they would target terror camps and terror infrastructure, but they would not target military infrastructure or civilian infrastructure. Right? So they're not trying to escalate, but they are retaliating after the Pahalgam attack. Like, you know, Pakistan did the Pahalgam attack. India has a right to defend itself and to retaliate. And that's what they did on May 7th.
And then only after Pakistan responded, that's when India responded with the BrahMos air-to-ground missile, as the Air Marshal of Pakistan apparently doesn't know what that is.
Yeah.
If you could tell me in very non-technical terms about air defense system, what are the capabilities that Pakistan have when it comes to neutralizing surface to surface and air to surface missile systems?
Air to surface. Okay, this means academic discourse, a pretty intense kind when you are asking such technical details, and we'll bore the rest of the people with them. But I must, on a broad guideline, that the Pakistan Air Force air defense system is pretty capable of handling high speed, long range vectors, even hypersonic weapons. So this should be pretty comforting to everybody inside Pakistan.
Fired from the Indianized Su-30 fighter jets. And these hit their runways, their air bases, and it took out, I think,
11 of them? 11 air bases. But before you get to that, like that first night that they struck the 9 terror camps, it was only within like it was not a long time. I think it was only between 20 to 20.
It was 23 minutes.
23 minutes. So, I mean, just phenomenal, like, planning. Imagine within 23 minutes, you strike 9 terror bases in Pakistan and kill, so the estimate is 100 plus terrorists. And some of these terrorists are incredibly high value terrorists that have committed the most horrendous terror attacks. I think the terrorists that planned like the 2001 Parliament attack, those that planned the 26/11 terrorist attack, those that planned Pulwama, and and
like these were
terrorist
all
attacks.
living in Pakistan in probably nice conditions.
Exactly.
Paid a lot of money by Pakistan to live there.
Right. Exactly. Yes. And so, like I said, 100 plus terrorists were killed that first night. And India wasn't just defending its own citizens by doing these attacks, but they were also doing a favor to the world. Because, wherever there's a terrorist attack in the world, somehow there's a link up to Pakistan. So Pakistan trains, funds, and then sends out terrorists to carry out attacks in India, but other places as well.
And then it's just deny. And if someone tries to respond, they just, they've moved their nukes to like very front lines a lot of times. And like there's history with like Bill Clinton and other people needing to like talk them down from it. So they basically use these nukes as an excuse to like hide their terrorists behind.
Right.
And India called that bluff this time.
Yeah.
So we'll talk about Pakistan's retaliations first,
Sure.
and then get to that. So Pakistan, in response to India's very precise targeting of 9 terror camps, launched drone and missile attacks targeting Indian civilian areas, including an attempted strike on Amritsar.
The Golden Temple.
Across the entire border, right? I saw some shelling of like a school and a gurdwara. They just anything they could get access to because they don't have these capabilities, they attacked.
So after the first night that India struck, what India said after that. So recently, EAM like Jay Shankar has said once Operation Sindoor started and after they had struck the 9 terror camps, India said that, we have only struck terror camps. We haven't struck like military or civilian infrastructure. So this isn't escalatory. We're responding to the terrorist attack that you did and killed innocent civilians in India, the Pahalgam attack. So, if you don't escalate, then we won't.
Stopping after these 23 minutes,
then
right?
we won't escalate. But after India struck the 9 terror camps, Pakistan, they fired up LOC. So they started shelling, like doing heavy shelling on the LOC, and it was indiscriminate. So they were targeting, unlike what India had done, they were targeting specifically civilian and military infrastructure. And like you said, they actually hit a gurdwara and killed 3 Sikhs, and then they hit like a nunnery and killed children and other individuals. And then you had said that they had actually launched, probably not just the first day, but over the 4-day period that Operation Sindoor lasted, they had sent like 400 plus drones and missiles, and they were all targeted at civilian infrastructure, at like gurdwaras and temples and all along the border. So I think there were like drones that were sent into like Jammu and Kashmir, Gujarat, Rajasthan, like all along. So yeah, their like attack was, they wanted to hit civilian. They wanted to cause the most civilian damage.
Which just tells you that that's a terrorist supporting nation.
Yeah. Because why?
They're just doing exactly what their terrorists were doing in targeting civilians.
Right, exactly. Because if they claim like they do, that we are also the victims of terrorism, we're fighting the war on terrorism, then why are you retaliating when India hit your terror camps? You should.
And nothing else. Right?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So.
So most of Pakistan's attack was like thwarted by Indians' integrated air defense system. So most people are just saying that S-400 right now, but that's not it. It's actually India's unique system that integrates many layers. So there's like the Akash, there's a quick short-range reaction missile. It's actually funny, like India kept these old Bofors guns so long that they were obsolete for shooting down fighters, but then like these cheap drones came around and they became useful again. So they actually added like radar and things and computerized its targeting and shooting. So it's optionally manned now. So it's just like a drone swatting machine. And that's just like they see innovation in a nutshell. Right?
No, it's amazing. Because I did hear that they upgraded legacy systems, and so it's all integrated, right? Like, and that's I was astonished at after like Operation Sindoor, the first night, when Pakistan sent like all these drones and like missile and stuff over, like I was
completely
amazed. Their like weapons were completely ineffective against like our integrated air defense system. I was so amazed, and that was, you know, like we all felt so proud that, and most of this was indigenous, right? Like, of course we have the S-400, but like the Akash system and all of that, like
people saw Akash shooting a lot more than the S-400.
right, yeah. So a lot of it is indigenous, and so like it's such a like proud moment that like the Indian armed forces and the Indian government, let's not forget, only in the last 10 years has the Indian government invested so much in defense. While the opposition, remember, kept saying, why are we investing in defense? And like, why should we invest in Make in India and like doing indigenous like weapons and stuff like that? This is why.
भाई जय हिंद जून बोल दो सालो शर्म करो अरे भाई बैकग्राउंड मेरे को ही लेना है चल दिख ही नहीं रहा भाई आए आए
今のはまぐれに決まってるまぐれは二度は起こんねえよ今度こそぶち込んでやるぜそんなバカな
Right. So imagine if we didn't have the Rafale and didn't have the S-400 right now.
Yeah.
Would have been a bad situation, right?
And didn't invest in indigenous like weapons and stuff.
Right.
Right?
Yeah, and also the Akash, the Astra, the Brahmos is like half Indian, half Russian, and everything like this.
Yeah, because before the current government, the BJP government, the previous like Congress governments, they did not invest in defense at all. And because of that, so many of our like soldiers and armed forces died that didn't need to, just in like training and drills, like and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Right, because like the weapons and the systems that we were using were so old that even in like training and like drills, you know, there would be casualties, which is such a like what a sin of like the Congress, one amongst many sins of the Congress, you know. And the Congress actually wouldn't even retaliate. Like in 2611, they didn't retaliate.
Yeah, they gave Pakistan all the intel, which just let Pakistan move around all their terror proxies with that intel. So completely unhelpful. So in the modern context of like people saying India attacked before providing evidence, we've been through this like dozens and dozens of times.
Yeah.
We know what happens when we provide evidence and when we don't. So like, it's like damned if you do, damned if you don't. So like in this case, India chose to take out the terror infrastructure quickly, which I think is the correct answer. Right?
Yeah.
So there's also a lot of claims floating around with this. And the more that comes out, the more India's claims are being verified and Pakistan's are being rebutted.
Right.
So Pakistan claimed to hit and destroy a bunch of Indian air bases, which is a weird thing to say when like 1.2 billion people are running around with cameras. So the morning after was a tri-service briefer from India, and they were like, this is a live feed of the airbase, what are you talking about, right?
Yeah. And so after Pakistan decided to escalate and send over, you know, attack India by sending over like drones and missiles and targeting civilian and military infrastructure, which they were unsuccessful in doing so. India then had to retaliate once again. And this was phenomenal, like their retaliation. The first thing that was phenomenal was our integrated air defense system, which we've already talked about, and how they didn't allow like any of the Pakistani like weapons to sort of, you know, hurt any like civilians. but like our counter attack was phenomenal. So India, I think it was over 2 nights, struck 11 air bases in Pakistan. And again, it was like the length and breadth of Pakistan. Like this was very
basically saying we can strike anywhere in Pakistan.
Yeah.
And these were like single missile strikes. It wasn't like you're sending 400 drones at something.
Yeah.
It was like
Again,
we
precise.
can cut through you like butter if we choose to.
Right. Yeah. And so again, and the 11 strikes, they happened in a very short time period, and they were very precise. And you know, like it wasn't just like throwing a bomb somewhere and like blasting everything. Like it was like very precision, like missile strikes.
Yeah, there was like an airbase that had like 2 runways, like in a kind of cross, and the BrahMos struck exactly
right in the center.
So that's
like
disabling
bullseye.
both of them with 1 missile.
Right. Yeah.
Rather than sending like hundreds of missiles and drones at
Exactly.
India that do almost
nothing. Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. So it was phenomenal, and these were like very important air bases of theirs. And they also
nothing beside
damaged
them was targeted.
nothing.
Like,
Yeah.
like there was a hole through like roofs of buildings, and everything in it would be taken out. The building would often still be standing.
Yeah,
And then
yeah.
the buildings next to it would be fine. Like
Right.
if you were in one of those buildings, most likely you were unhurt completely. Right?
Yeah. Yeah. And like they basically took out, like it said, like now that like all the evidence is coming out, apparently like 20% of like their air like
infrastructure.
Yeah.
I think their retired air marshal is actually admitting things they hit. He said he saw 4 BrahMos strikes on one air hangar.
Next morning, he came with surface-to-surface missiles.
Yep.
वो भी फिर आर्मी और एयरफोर्स ने आर्मी ने अल्फता हमारे मिसाइल मारे और एयरफोर्स ने ये जो आप सुबह की बात कर रहे हैं
जी जी
ये 10 की सुबह को हुआ बिकॉज मेरी कुछ लोगों से बात भी हुई उस बेस के ऊपर 4 सरफेस टू सरफेस ब्राह्मोस मिसाइल आए सरफेस टू सरफेस या एयर टू सरफेस ये मुझे नहीं पता तो पायलट्स जो हैं वो पहले दौड़े कि वो अपने जहाजों को सिक्योर करें
अच्छा
और जैसे पहला आया वो जूम करके ऊपर से दूसरा आया फिर तीसरा आया फिर चौथा आया जो कि अनफॉर्चुनेटली बुलारी में डायरेक्टली आके एक हैंगर पे लगा जहां पे कि हमारा एवैक्स खड़ा था जो डैमेज
and took out one of their AWACS, which is like a huge deal. It's like it's a force multiplier that has a huge radar and can see a lot more and connect to other jets and even like guide missiles through its data link and stuff like that. So it's like poking someone in the eye and like you're blind after that.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
So like, who do you think really wanted the ceasefire after all this?
Right. Yeah.
But like, continuing on to verification of these claims, there's 2 U.S.-based satellite firms. So NASA and Maxar. So whatever you think of the India-U.S. relationship right now, they're just showing what's on the ground, and they're showing that India's air bases are untouched, as the Tri-Service briefing said, and then these 11 Pakistani air bases are destroyed. And not only the U.S. one, which like might be closer to India, but also a Chinese satellite firm called Mizar Vision. It showed all these claims as well, and their incentive, if anything, would be to like denigrate Indian weapons and promote Chinese ones, right? But they're just showing what happened on the ground.
Right.
These Pakistani air bases are destroyed, and nothing happened to India except for like the schools and a gurdwara that they managed to shell.
And that was through shelling,
Right,
like you said. Yeah.
And yeah, that's like the line of control. It's very close, and they can. That was just whatever they could get to, right? This was funny. Pakistan also claimed to hit the center of gravity, an S-400 system.
Yeah.
So first of all, a couple of things here. The S-400 is not one truck with missiles on it. It's a disaggregated system with many components. There's like a radar truck, a missile truck. Like saying you hit it or not is, first of all, not a yes or no question or answer. Second, they showed a patch of dirt that was hit, and that was their proof.
Okay. I didn't
and
see that.
Third, hilariously, like he's a master of trolling. Modi went to this airbase the next day
That was so good.
with pictures of the S-400 they claimed to hit behind him.
That was
And
amazing.
it was fine.
Yeah,
Right?
yeah.
So like he didn't even say they're lying. He
No,
just,
yeah.
all you have to do is go there with a camera, and it's
Yeah.
like, clearly Pakistan's claims about most of this are lies.
Yeah.
And India's claims just keep being verified over and over
Right.
again.
And like you said, by foreign like companies, but also like foreign experts, like military experts and things like that, have also now, after they've looked at the evidence, come out and said that India clearly won. You know, like
Was that Tom?
many. There were many.
There was an expert that said like, we should talk about the Kedana Hills first. then.
Okay, yeah. But yeah, there were many that said like India, you know, India definitely was victorious in their operation. And what was very different about this operation compared to some of the other wars that are currently happening in the world, but also that have happened in the past, is this, you know, India never wanted to get into like a forever or a prolonged war. Like they were very clear at the beginning what their objective
It's
was.
the fastest growing major economy on earth.
Yeah.
Like, it doesn't want to mess with that.
No,
It doesn't
no.
want us to start a war with Pakistan. It
Exactly.
wants nothing to do with Pakistan.
Absolutely
Right.
nothing to do with Pakistan. And so, you know, like India was so strategic, so precise. Like the planning was just phenomenal, and like hats off to the government. You have to give it to the BJP for pulling off this operation, as well as the armed forces. But I mean, imagine people, and this is why voting counts. Because imagine if India had voted in Congress or, you know, like the India Alliance. What would have happened after the Pahalgam attack? Would it be similar to 26/11 when nothing happened?
Yeah.
You know, would it be similar to in the 90s when there was a genocide of Kashmiri Hindus and an exodus of Kashmiri Hindus, and then the Congress party shook hands with the terrorists? Right? That's what would have happened. So, I mean, you know, kudos to Indians for actually voting in, again, BJP for the third time. And like, thank God BJP like invested so much in defense. They had like the political will to keep upping the ante, right? As you said, like, you know, I think first was the surgical strike, then Balakot, right? So first they crossed the LOC, then maybe the international border, and now it's just like
So if Operation Sindoor wiped out 20% of their Air Force infrastructure, and each escalation is like
It's
five
like-
times bigger than the last one.
Yeah.
Like Pakistan should do the math here and
Right.
really consider their next move.
And like, remember, like, although like all services, like all three services, you know, were part of this operation, like the Navy didn't even,
They were on standby.
like they were on standby. And like, you know, this didn't even show like 5 to 10% of India's military might. Like this was very like a short time frame, first of all, like 3 days, and we completely like, you know, like decimated their like air defense systems and stuff like that.
A hilarious thing about that, like not even like India not even putting in that much effort for this, is like Pakistan was freaking out. Like they were like talking to people on every level, like everything was panic about like what India is doing here. And then India called like a presser at 4 p.m. and everyone's watching this presser like, what's it going to be? What are they going to announce? Something else? And then they're just talking about like sugarcane prices, and, like just like normal stuff. And Modi's going around the world and doing his normal stuff,
Right.
And it's just like, you are the backwater concern for us now. Like this is not even 1% of like what we could do.
Right. Yeah.
The last time the Indian Navy got near Karachi, a new country was formed. And like we could do it again, like if you keep this up, right?
Yeah. So like this wasn't like, this was barely India flexing its like you know, military like prowess and might.
Didn't fire a single meteor missile from the Rafale. So if they wanted, they probably could have taken out a lot more of Pakistan's Air Force. But again, they were focused on not escalating. They were responding in kind to everything Pakistan tried first.
Right, yeah.
Right.
The other thing I found was so interesting about this operation was, again, it was so short, it was so precise, and the message that India gave Pakistan was we've struck 9 terror camps, and these are precision strikes because you can see in the satellite, right? As you said, if there's 2 buildings and they wanted to hit one, the other one is still standing, so very precise. Yeah. And then even the 11 strikes that they did in the air bases, again, very precise. So I think one of the big messages that India was sending was we can strike anywhere in Pakistan, not just the Pakistan occupied J&K, but we can cross the international border and hit deep into Pakistan, Punjab, or anywhere. They've hit all across Pakistan from north to south, and very deep inside. I think I've heard, and maybe we can verify, but up to 200 kilometers into Pakistan, so very deep into Pakistan. And right now we've only it was precise. So for example, at this air base we only struck 1 missile, but we can strike 20 there, right? At will, we can go in and we can strike anywhere in Pakistan. This is a warning.
Yeah, I think that's a good segue into this Kirana Hills
Oh,
situation.
sure.